Insurance. Thank you for listening. Season 1 has been such a learning process for me, and we are going to explore some of that today, along with favorite moments and 2 very special guests to me. But first, we need you. We want to make this podcast everything awkward that you want and need it to be. So please email us at podcasts@scic.com and let us know about your favorite moments or our worst moments. We don't care. Just let us know. So next month is our 1-year anniversary. And like I've said, it's been a learning process, but we have had so much fun along the way. We want to use this episode to take a look at what we've done so far. And thanks to the special guests, one in particular, we're going to take a look at the future of the podcast. So before we meet our future, let's meet our past and present. Matt is the producer of Awkward Insurance, and he has been here for every single episode, has been an amazing sounding board, and graciously never tells me when I sound like crap. So, Mac, welcome to your first episode of Awkward Insurance as a guest. I'm so happy to have you here.
Thank you, Dustin.
What is it like sitting behind the microphone, generally with your camera turned off, so I can't see your nonverbal feedback, which is a big bummer for me? But what is it like to sit behind the microphone or behind the scenes? For you're the man behind the curtain, honestly. You are the Wizard of Oz.
It's nerve-wracking, not because of what you're saying, but because at any moment someone's internet's going to go out or someone's mic is going to fail. And so I'm listening to the sounds more than the words throughout the whole thing.
Good to know. That's why you never tell me when I sound like booty.
No, just if you're too loud.
Which is every episode. And you've never told me such, so I may not be too loud. But either way, well, we're so happy to have you here. I'm so happy to have you here. Since you've been here for every single episode, I want to know what your favorite moments of the Awkward Insurance podcast has been so far.
Favorite moments? Well, anytime Ashley Fitzsimmons is on is always a treat.
Yes.
She's great. I really enjoyed the academic team podcast that we did with all the people from the National Alliance, just because.
Oh my gosh. Yes. Because when we get together, we're always talking about like what we're doing, like the serious stuff and whether or not this works or that works or what needs to be done and not done. And, who's on time, not me, and who is, whatever. So we don't get to hang out that much. So when we had that podcast, man, I just really wanted it to be fun and let listeners know who we were. Like, honestly, the whole reason for it was before I was an academic director. I didn't know academic directors existed at the National Alliance. I mean, I never gave thought to who put those words on that piece of paper. It just was always in existence for me. So it was really fun, I think, to let the audience hear about and get to know the academic directors. So that was a fun one for me too. What else? Do you have any other favorites?
Well, just because I grew up near there, hearing Nikki Wyatt talk about Nashville was a lot of fun.
Nikki Wyatt. She Nikki Wyatt or Nikki Cheryl Wyatt? John Jingleheimer Schmidt.
Yeah, there was some confusion with her name.
Is the way I affectionately refer to her. I don't think she'll kill me for that, but she's got a lot of first names and a lot of last names. But no, she's amazing. And now she is one of our faculty and does courses, I want to say, in Virginia. I think she does personal auto in Virginia, and she is amazing. She was, let me see if I can remember. She is our claims professional that we had, right? She knows a behemoth amount of claims, which is always fun having conversations with claims individuals because they got all the fun stories. I mean, we got all the front side stories of when somebody calls in and says, I had an accident and listen, here's what happened. And they tell you their whole life story before they ever get to the accident. But then they get all the fun stuff in between of actually figuring out what happened and how it happened. And anyway, no, she was really fun too. And that one particularly was about gig economy, Uber risk, sharing economy, basically. And so she started talking about her first time discovering Uber risks, and she was drunk when it happened, right?
Mm-hmm.
which is just how you are in Nashville because it's the place to,
Right.
be fun and free and lots of music. Oh no. Yeah. So for me, Uber was, I think an infant basically in insurance when Uber was coming around. And it's always fun to discover the new risks and, growing up. So it's speaking of new risks, the National Alliance is actually hosting a panel for the Gamma Iota Sigma. Is it the 50th annual conference coming up in Ohio here pretty soon? And it's so, oh, well, I'm just going to go off on a couple of different random tangents here. We also did a speaking part or a panel discussion in January about, the sharing economy and stuff like that. It was really fun. Got to present that to students. In case listeners don't know what Gamma Iota Sigma is, it is a fraternity of insurance nerds, basically. So everything insurance, but they're baby insurance nerds. They're little college kids. They're little college babies. They're our future. And so we do everything that we can for Gamma Iota Sigma with Gamma Iota Sigma. And we've got another speaking panel coming up at the end of this month, at the end of September. And we'll be speaking about emerging risks. And so it's always fun when you start getting bugs in your ear about, different risks that are coming up. Oh, let me tell you about my favorite. My favorite, of course, I love connecting with people that I have known and grown up with in the insurance industry. And like I said, I was kind of a baby when I started in the insurance industry. It's like, I don't know, I was like early 20s when I started. So, and insurance is a small world. You start with a team and everybody kind of just knows everybody. And now that I'm kind of more like branching out into different associations in different states and everything, you still realize how small the industry is, even nationally. Like it's just this circle that just keeps growing where you're like, oh, this person, that person. Anyways, my favorite episode, get back on track here, is the one that I did with I consider him my bestie. He'll probably not corroborate that. But Wes Dyson, he's one of my favorite people in the entire world. I met him very early on in my career. So Wes is one of my favorite people, one of my besties, maybe even more like a brother to me more than anything. Super awkward moments that have happened between us over the years. So that was one of my favorite. If you don't know what that awkward moment is, you're just gonna have to go check out that episode because I'm not gonna repeat it. But he's been one of my favorites too. And man, he's still one of my favorites. And we talk at least on a monthly basis, if not more. And he is just growing into his own right now. And I am so proud of him and everything that he is doing and the agency that he has landed with. He's kind of been a floater, for a little bit, but he's really found some roots. And man, his roots are growing and they're growing fast. And I love watching him and his development in his career. And it's everything that I hope for in my role here at the National Alliance, is to be able to meet these emerging industry leaders, if you will, these agents who are just starting to put down their roots and watch them grow and do everything that we can from the National Alliance to help them grow. And that's everything about what we do. So that's why that's one of my favorite episodes, is because that episode just means more than awkward moments to me. So I really love that one. I want to think, are there any other, you know what? Let's just get our special guest on the phone with us now.
I was going to say, there's one episode we haven't talked
I
about.
but I know that this guest is going to have some favorite episodes of her own. And then I'm just so excited to get to talk to the special guest about, everything that joining. Never mind. Let's just get just whatever. Let's get the special guest on. Can you call her up? Let's call her up.
Hello?
Kat Barris. How are you, my dear?
Oh my God, Dustin, hi, how are you?
Oh my gosh, Kat, thank you so much for answering the phone and being here today. And now that everybody has met Kat on both prior episodes and today, we are so excited to announce that Kat is joining the Awkward Insurance team or cast as a co-host.
Yay! I'm so excited to be hosting along with you.
Yes. So right now, Kat, right now, we're just talking about what the first season has been for us and our special or favorite moments on Awkward Insurance's first season because second season, even though I didn't, when we started this, I didn't know we were going to have seasons. I just kind of saw it as this perpetual thing until somebody was going to cancel me because I just, was bad at it or something, whatever. But we have gone forward with the idea of having a second season. And part of that is because you're joining the cast of Awkward Insurance. And we're just going to keep moving forward with Kat Barris on the second season. So,
Oh my gosh, yeah, I am so excited to be part of season 2. There's a little element of where I'm going, oh my gosh, you like me, you really like me. So that's exciting.
I don't just like you, Kat. I love you. I love you so much.
But I got to admit, it's a little intimidating to be part of season 2 because I think you've done such a great job with just season 1. And I remember I actually started listening to your podcast before I joined the Alliance. And I think when you started releasing episodes was right around the time that I started looking at maybe joining the Alliance. And when I came across your podcast, I honestly, at first, I didn't even realize it was affiliated with the National Alliance, but I saw the title because the first episode that I saw was it Let's Talk About Sex?
Yeah.
And
An Ash Fitz episode.
Yes.
So Max, one of Mac's favorite guests is Ash Fitz, and she's one of mine. But yes, that was an Ash Fitz episode.
Yeah, and I just thought, number one, I was impressed with just your hook and your energy. And
oh my gosh, let me tell you about the development of that hook because it was not easy.
Yeah.
I mean, it was kind of easy because Ash Fitz had already developed the hook. Basically, it's based off of her article. I think something like "I'm Your Agent, Let's Talk About Sex," or no, I think that was our title. Hers is just "Let's Talk About Sex," isn't it? Anyways, so I had heard about this amazing human being named Ashley Fitzsimmons. And of course, I LinkedIn stalked her and everything else and said, hey, would you like to be on the podcast? And she's like, yeah, sure. That was amazing of her to do in the first place because it was the very first. There were no pre-recorded episodes. It's not like you could just go, hey, go check out our podcast and see if you want to be a guest, whatever. It was just.
If anything, I think that would make it easier because then you feel like, okay, there's not this standard that's been created. So if anything, it's probably easier to be the first guest because you can set the stage.
Right.
So Ashley's already just created this high bar.
Right. Which is what made that episode so awfully awkward for me. Is because, I came to the National Alliance. I'm a nobody. I still feel like I'm a nobody. I'm here in Arkansas. Nobody thinks about Arkansas as even part of the United States, I don't think. Nobody ever even remembers that our initials are AR, not AZ. And, that's a common issue here in Arkansas. But then I come to the National Alliance and I'm doing this personalized role. And it's like, hey, here's a podcast that we want to do and we want you to do it. And I'm like, okay, no big deal. I didn't think it through. I didn't realize that they were like, hey, let's develop a title and put your face on it. And I'm like, whose face? My face or that person's face? Can we make it a cartoon? Or it was very weird. And then it's like, here, now meet people. And I'm like, okay, so I don't think y'all hired me for my networking abilities because those are quite slender. So I met this Ashley Fitzsimmons person, this amazing human being, and she really is. And we've developed a wonderful friendship. And the more I get to know her, the more amazing she is. But this isn't an Ash Fitz episode, so we'll get off of that for a minute. But then it was like, okay, well, she's got this article that I stumbled upon that's about having awkward conversations. And I'm like, okay, what a better way to start Awkward Insurance than with awkward conversations, Ashley Fitzsimmons. And everybody's like, well, what's the title? I'm like, wait a second, I got to come up with titles too. All right, well, sex maybe. And it was just a private conversation between me and the original idea maker of the podcast. And then all of a sudden, we're on a monthly all company meeting and it gets thrown out that the very first episode or one of the episodes is talking about sex. And I'm like, and then he goes, and Dustin, do you tell everybody what you're titled? And I'm like, okay. I didn't realize this was solid and in stone.
But I think that's so great because especially, I mean, I know that all of our listeners are people either that are already in the industry or some of the high school and college students that are about to enter the industry. But for the most part, people that are not working in insurance day to day, they assume it's going to be very boring.
Yeah.
And I've actually had someone walk away from a conversation from me when I told them I was an insurance underwriter because they went, "Oh yeah, that sounds dull." But it is really interesting, and there just are so many crazy experiences that you can have in the industry. And I just love what you've done with this podcast because it just lets people know that, hey, everybody can find a niche here or find a home, a career path within
Literally
insurance.
everybody.
Yeah, and there's it's such a broad business to get into, and I want to share that enthusiasm with others.
Yay! And we want you to share that enthusiasm too. So that first episode was super awkward. And I want to, before we move on from it, I also want to acknowledge that it was super awkward because I thought I was prepared and like ready to go. And then Ashley Fitzsimmons and her amazing awesomeness opened her mouth and my brain just short circuited. I could not think or speak or it was a fun episode, and I think we've grown a lot since then.
Well, that's also why we have Mac's genius editing powers for those brain farts he can trim and cut out.
Oh, well, then he should have cut the whole episode because the whole episode was one big brain fart for me. Not for Ashley. She was amazing. She carried the conversation like a professional.
So let me ask, so I gotta say, you just saying that networking is not your strong point, you could have fooled me because in the time that I've been working with you, I just see you as a networking genius. And that is something that, when you guys asked me to join for season 2, I was very flattered, but then I thought, oh my gosh, does that mean I have to like network and try to reach out and talk to people? Because because I'm going to tell you right off the bat, I am horrible at social, for instance, LinkedIn. Oh my gosh. I log on to LinkedIn and I go, oh my gosh, there's so much to keep up on. I'll get to this later.
And see, for LinkedIn, for me, it's like, and this is how it is with social media anyways. If you're going to network through social media, you have to do it frequently because somebody's only going to stay on a social app for maybe 5 minutes top, unless you're watching TikTok and then you're there for hours. But on social media like LinkedIn and even Facebook, you're going to have to be in that person's like top list in order to even, so if you're going to network on social media, you're going to have to do it frequently in order to make sure that you catch their attention every once in a while, which is how it is for me. I mean, I get onto LinkedIn in the morning and sometimes at night. And when I get on there, I'm just scrolling through really quick until I see a message that's like super powerful, or I see something that needs to be shared, or somebody that I have interest in, or somebody that I'm friends with. And of course, I want to promote them because that's everything to me here at the National Alliance is promoting others and making them, and helping them be the best versions of themselves. And in order to do that, if they're promoting themselves on networks, then I want to be a part of helping promote them too. So, I mean, that's all it is, but it's like 5 minutes and then I'm done. But mainly because I fuss at my husband about being on his phone all the time. So I can't also be the one that's on my phone all the time. But no, so I appreciate you saying that I look like a networking genius, but I'm not. But yes, so networking is definitely a part of this situation. Let me hear about some of your favorite moments of the awkward insurance episodes so far. What's been your favorite?
Oh gosh, there's so many to choose from.
There are.
One that really resonated with me was Tracy Lee Cotton.
Oh my God, I love her name.
Yes, and not just because it's such a fun name to say.
Yes!
I mean, it is a fun name to say,
It
Tracy
is.
Lee Cotton. But that was the Build a Swiss Army Knife episode, right? That was, staying versatile, building a Swiss Army knife. So she had said something that really resonated with me so much on a personal level. And it was when she talked about her 50 for 50 challenge and just doing all of these new adventures. Because for, I would say, maybe the past 10 or 15 years, one of my personal goals has always been every year making myself do something outrageous and outside of my comfort zone. Because when I'm an old lady and I have grandkids and great grandkids, I want them to look at my photo albums and go, man, grandma was a badass. So when Tracy mentioned that, I was like, oh my gosh, yes, she and I, we're connecting. We're best friends and don't even know it yet. But I find that having that kind of philosophy, and Tracy really iterated this as well, even though you're stepping outside of your comfort zone in a lot of, personal recreational areas, what you gain from that, your confidence and chipping away at some of those little fears, really does carry over into the professional arena. And just like you said, you've got a passion for helping people become the best versions of themselves. And that is something that, again, I can really connect with. And I think that's why you and I get along so well. And also why we're passionate about education is because that's what it's designed to do. It's designed to help people be the best version of themselves,
Yes.
regardless of what that job might be.
Absolutely. No, Tracy Lee Cotton is definitely one of my favorite. If you don't follow her on social media, you need to, because the 50 for 50 didn't stop with the end of achieving 50 goals. She is constantly, I mean, she's like a picture inspiration every time I get
Mm.
on there. She's got some awesome photo of some trail that she's hiked or some experience. I mean, just posting what she eats is inspirational most of the time. So if you don't follow Tracy Lee Cotton, definitely go check her out on her social media pages, because that's right. And we've got a guest that's coming up in season 2 that I'm super excited about, that she really speaks to not having two versions of yourself. Not everybody, a lot of people will have a private persona and a professional persona. And at some point in your life, that gets exhausting. And you know, especially now, I think as the millennials are getting older,
Mm-hmm.
it's becoming that moment where it's exhausting to have a personal persona and a professional persona. Because as Facebook and everything, as social media developed for millennials, there was always this picture perfect. Yeah, you had to use a filter. You had to
Mm-hmm.
look right. Nobody needed to have an attitude in the picture.
Mm-hmm.
And I think we've seen a shift in that, and that it's going to continue to shift, that there was the picture perfect persona, and then there was the what's actually happening
It's so
persona.
funny that you say that, because okay, so I don't consider myself a millennial per se. I'm holding on to that tail end of Gen X. I relate with Gen X. But for years, I've struggled with that too, having that professional persona and that personal persona, especially being and I know you've heard me say this before, having entered into the industry at such a young age, being a young single mom, I was really all about buttoning up and making sure that people saw me as this
Yeah.
professional that can be taken seriously. But yeah, it does get exhausting. But lately, maybe it's the result of just the fatigue from everything that 2020 threw at us. But I have just decided, or maybe it was because of just, getting into my 40s, I just decided, F it. I don't care what people think anymore, and I'm going to be
F it. EFF.
yes, yes, EFF. I'm going to be unapologetically myself, and this is me. And oh my gosh, I think even on social media, I may have used a hashtag about living authentically. And since I've been with the Alliance, I really appreciate how there is an embracement of all of the different things that we bring to the table.
It's really hard to be, for lack of better words, and at risk of sounding cheesy, authentically yourself.
Mm-hmm.
But until you're surrounded by somebody that just accepts you for who you are. And so Mac is that for me. And as I've been doing this podcast, which was very outside my comfort zone and hard for me to wrap my brain around. And the more we dove into it, Matt just let me sit in my anxiety. He never judged me for my anxiety. So Matt, and that's, going back to what you were saying, Kat, is, that's kind of like a theme here at the National Alliance, is just accepting everybody for who they are and what they bring to the table. And Mac is that. So thanks for that.
Well, you did the hard work.
No, actually, anybody who knows me personally knows that listening to me is the hard work.
Well, and I think your personality and just how outgoing you are really, like, I love how this podcast has had a focus on the account managers and the agencies, because so many podcasts focus on producers or agency owners.
Yes.
Not
everybody wants to be a producer. Not everybody wants to be an agency owner. And, everybody's okay. Somebody put something on social media not too long ago that said, how successful have you been in this industry? I think it was in like a female group that I was in. How successful have you been in the industry? I got a little upset and sideways because everybody's posting numbers. Like, this is what I've produced. This is what I've done. This has been my best month. My best year was, 6 figures or more. It was all about the numbers. And I'm like, but are you happy?
Yeah.
It's never about that. Even though I love numbers, it's never about the numbers for me, man. It has always been about the personal connections. And I found that the most as an account manager. And I love that.
Mm-hmm. It's so funny because I think, and one of the things that I think, as far as a different opinion that maybe I can bring into season 2 is because I don't have an agency background. I come from the carrier background. I am at heart, and I hope this doesn't turn off viewers, but deep in my heart, I am an underwriter. So, but I'm an underwriter.
We're going to have some fun.
But, the majority of my career has been in commercial underwriting. But when I got into training and training agents, that's where I found the most satisfaction. And, if I had an opportunity to answer that question that someone had posted about, how successful have you been this month? I got to tell you, a huge moment for me was...
Wait.
Mm-hmm.
For underwriters, it's how many apps you've denied in a month, right?
No. It's how profitable is that book of business that you've written.
Okay.
So
I just had to get that dig in.
No, see, and also here's the thing, because I started out as an E&S underwriter, I will write anything for the right premium.
Oh, I love E&S markets. I love E&S. That's where the fun happens.
Mm-hmm. If I can charge the right amount of money for it, sure, I'll write it. That's part of risk management, balancing the risk and reward. So I think that's why.
Which is another podcast, by the way.
That's true. That is true. But I had a moment, I guess it was a few months ago, I was at the FAIA convention. So for those of you that don't know, I am based in Florida. So you are making jokes that people forget that Arkansas is a state in the country. It's better than what people think of Floridians. So we've got a completely different reputation.
It's the vacation state of the United States.
That's a very generous way of phrasing that. You obviously haven't spent much time in Florida outside of Disney World. So, but and so I spent a good amount of time training independent agents with the carrier that I was with previously. And we had developed a new commercial producer school. And so these students, these were producers that were in their first year in the industry. So most of the people had just joined the industry and had been in there for maybe 6 months, not more than a year. And so now, years later, going to the FAIA convention and running into people that were in my first class and seeing how well they've gotten or how far they've
Yeah.
gone in their careers and just feeling like, oh my gosh, I was a part of that. It just
I
makes
know.
me all warm and fuzzy.
I bet it does, and I can't wait for that moment to hit for me, because I've not been wholly involved in, up to this point in my career, I've not had, or at least not to my knowledge, had huge impacts on somebody else's career. And I think that's the epitome of success for me, is being
Mhm.
able to impact the success of somebody else.
Well, think about those high school students. So, I'm not sure how well known this is for most of our listeners, but we do have that high school CISR program, which is amazing. I can't wait for it to get approved in Florida so I can put my son in it. But obviously we're not the ones teaching the class, but you had mentioned in for one of the schools where the program is being facilitated, you had a study group session with a class and you
I
were
love
able
them.
to answer so many questions for that. And those people that are going to be entering the industry in the next year or two, and they're going to have such a great head start. And so you've already made an impact in their careers.
Man, those students were amazing. I have to tell you, there's one special group. I'm not going to point them out just so I don't alienate any of them. But there's one special group. I just loved them, adored them. They were awesome.
You know what I just realized? We're the only ADs not based in Austin. So I wonder if that's part of why we connect so well together because we're at home, states away from the rest of the academic development team. So when you and I get together, it's like, I have a friend I can talk to.
Right. We're basically craving human interaction. That is probably very true. I mean, there's so many different facets to relationships, and it's not always sunshine and glitter. And when you're hosting a guest, you want to stay very, very respectful. You don't want to, pick on them in any way, unless you know them, because you could go back and take a listen to Wes's episode and Heath Sharon's episode for sure. And listen to me pick on some of my friends. But now that Kat's going to be joining it, if there's a topic that we're discussing, we're going to be able to look at both sides of it. We're going to be able to look at the pros and the cons and pick each other apart. And it's just even better that I come from the agency side and she comes from the underwriting side, because that's just a classic,
The gloves are off, my friend.
in I mean, okay, so like in my word, the only way, for lack of terminology here, because I'm just failing at words at the moment, police and firemen have this love-hate relationship. They're brothers when they need to be, and they're jokester adversaries, every other time. That's the agent and the
Mhm.
underwriter of the insurance industry. So and I think that's one of the relationships that I miss the most. Not being in an agency is having that relationship with my underwriters, where I go in usually with an argumentative attitude because I'm going to convince them of something that they don't want to be
Mhm.
convinced of. It just I'm just an
Well,
arguer by
and
nature.
you know what
Maybe.
I think might be interesting to see develop throughout the course of the next several episodes, or just as we watch how this show evolves, hopefully maybe that underwriting perspective can help with some of the account managers. In one of the classes that I used to teach, there was a whole section on how to butter up your underwriter. How to how to make friends with your underwriter. Because I'm not gonna lie, I had favorite agents, no lie, and a lot of that was because of just I trusted the business that they were sending to me, even if it was off the wall. I trusted it. In fact, there was a phrase that I used to say a lot in some of my classes because some of the not arguments, some of the passionate discussions that I as an underwriter would get into with agents was when maybe they didn't like how something could have been declined because it was eligible. And I would always say there's a difference between eligible risks and desirable risks.
Yeah.
When I log on to Tinder or Match.com, technically all of those potential matches are eligible. But are they all desirable?
That's a great analogy.
And
there.
that's how
I have
I've
to build
always
that into one of the
Yeah.
programs.
But that's how I always looked at commercial accounts. You could have a risk that, yeah, it meets all the criteria that this carrier has for the type of business that they want to write, but is it really something you want to write?
So, like I
Versus,
said, your measure of success was how many apps you could decline in a day.
not mine. I was always known, and I think one of the reasons why some of my agents liked me is because I wasn't afraid to go to bat for the accounts that may not have been technically eligible because maybe they had some incidental class code that wasn't within our guidelines. But man, if that was a good looking risk and I could put it on paper and sell it and talk about how great their loss control was and all of this other stuff, I'm fighting for it.
That's awesome. Well, I can't wait. I think this is going to be so much fun. And like I said, this has been a process. It's been a growing process. It's been a fun process. We've still got a ton of fun and a ton of growing to do. I think it's going to be an amazing second season. And I don't even know that there will be additional seasons after that because it just may be one big, long second season from now until forever, But I'm so looking forward to this journey with you, Kat. I cannot wait to just explore the insurance industry with Kat by my side.
Me too. And I can't wait to learn so much about your networking prowess and also hear more about the personal lines perspective.
Yeah, it's a fun one. Mac, can't wait to have you by our side too. You bring amazing ideas, you guys. He does more behind the scenes than you will ever know about. He is a great sounding board. He is an awesome producer, puts every single one of our guests at ease when I make them unsure of themselves. So, Kat, I can't wait for season 2. Mac, it's always a pleasure to be able to see your face when we're doing episodes. And I'm so happy that our audience gets to hear your voice now too.
Well, thank you, Dustin.
All right, I'm ready to rock this stuff.
She's ready to rock this joint. All right, let's go.
Doodles.
Thanks for hanging around and listening to another awkward conversation in insurance. Stay tuned for new episodes from Awkward Insurance wherever you listen to your podcasts. And be sure to check out the National Alliance on Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, or at scic.com. Now go forth and be awkward. Toodles.